Hello, everybody, and welcome back to lesson 4.6. Today, we're going to talk about quadratic inequalities and systems. Today will be a pretty short video. I'm basically just going to show you the steps and do one example of each. So let's get cooking, talking about quadratic inequalities and systems. So the first one we're going to look at is a quadratic inequality. So we're going to make one side of the inequality 0. So right here, this is x squared minus 3x plus 7. So we can turn this into x squared minus 3x plus 2 is less than 0. So the next step is to solve this. So when I look at this, I say, all right, I can factor this into x minus 2, and then x minus 1 is less than 0. So my two solutions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to note here that my solutions are 1 and 2. So this doesn't mean that x is equal to 1 or 2. What it means is if I plug either 1 or 2 into the equation, I will get 0, which is not what I'm trying to solve here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two solutions and I'm going to put them on a number line. So I've got 1 here, I've got 2 here. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the equation that I created right here and say, all right, based on this equation that I have right here, when will this be greater than 0 and when will it be less than 0? So one thing that I can use to help me with this is I can use the fact that I know this is a parabola that opens up. Because this parabola opens up, it's greater than 0 on the outside and less than 0 on the inside, because this graph is going to look something like this. If this is equal to 0 at 1 and 2, then that means between 1 and 2, this graph is negative, and then outside of 1 and 2, the graph is positive. Which means right here, if this says this thing is less than 0, the only place this would happen would be between 1 and 2. So then this would be my solution, 1 to 2. Or I could say 1 is less than x, which is less than 2. So these are the two ways that you can see your answer. So we'll do some practice with these, but the basic idea here is make one side equal to 0, solve it, use a number line to figure out where it's positive and where it's negative. And with parabolas specifically, an easy way to do that is think about if it opens up or opens down. And then write your answer as either an interval or an inequality. If you're not sure about this opening up or opening down thing, another thing that you could do is you could plug in any number less than 1 to the equation, see if you get a positive or negative value. In this case, so if you plugged in 0, for example, 0 would give you 2, 2 is greater than 0, this section is positive, so it's not a solution, and so on and so forth. You can plug in a value from each section, see if it fits the inequality. If not, that section is not a solution. One other thing that I want to point out is one thing that I could see that would have been slightly different would have been if this is said less than or equal to. If this is said less than or equal to, the only thing that would change would be in the inequality, these would be equal to signs. And for the interval, instead of parentheses, I would use brackets, because brackets mean that I include the value, parentheses mean that I do not. So if it could possibly be equal to that value, I'm going to use that as a possible solution and use brackets. All right, so this is an example we're going to do in class. So I'm going to leave this one up here. If you want to try and practice this one before we get to class, this is an example that you could solve. All right, so now let's look at systems of quadratics. So for systems of quadratics, we're going to set our equations equal to each other. All right, so we're going to set our two equations equal to each other. So I've got 2x squared minus 6x plus 7 equals x squared minus 9x plus 5. We're going to make one side equal to 0. In this case, I chose to make the right side 0 because here's the reason I did that. If I subtract x squared over here, 2x squared minus x squared is still positive x squared. I personally like to avoid negative x squareds just because it has a tendency to cause people to make errors. So this is just x squared plus 3x because it's negative 6x plus 9x. That's 3x plus 2. That's 7 minus 5. This factors into x plus 2 times x plus 1, which means my two solutions are negative 2 and negative 1. Once I have these two solutions, that means that these are the x values of the solutions to the system. I can plug these into either equation and get the y values, and these would be the coordinates where the solutions happen. This is very similar to when we did systems of linear equations. It's kind of it's one way that we can solve systems of linear equations. It's like the graphing method where you find the point where they intersect. Basically what happens here is with these two graphs of these quadratics, these are the 2 points where they intersect. So these are the two solutions to the system of quadratics. So here's another system that you could try on your own. I'm going to leave it up to you to solve it. And that is it for today. So today we talked about quadratic inequalities, systems of quadratics. There are a couple examples that we'll do in class. We'll do some more examples on top of that in class. I just wanted to go ahead and give you those two if you want to try and do a couple on your own. So if you have any questions, make sure you bring them to class. And I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll see you in the next video.